Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another Johnny TCG video. I'm Johnny TCG. I am happy to see you here today. And today we're talking about one of the most forgotten leaders in the One Piece TCG. When PRB Sanji was first announced, a lot of people in the community went crazy, including myself. This leader ability just seemed so broken that there was no way this guy was not going to take over. But when he finally was released, he didn't really take over that much. He took over pre-release tournaments, that's definitely can't be denied, but he did not make a splash in the meta at all. It seems that maybe in theory his leader ability was much better than it actually was in practice. And now you don't really see him played much, especially not in the high competition tournaments. You'll see him on the sim every once in a while, you know, someone playing him, testing him out, but you're not really going to see this deck every day. I never got around to testing him when he first came out. I just didn't want to dive too deep into it. I had a lot of other decks I was focused on at the time, but now, since no one's playing him, I'm going to give him a shot and see how he can do. Taking a look at decks from the East that were successful and then adding my own spice to it, I came up with this list that is admittedly pretty janky. I'm not going to claim this is going to be an amazing list. There are way more 2-ofs than I would normally put in a deck. The reason I'm running more 2-ofs than usual is because that with this leader ability, you're able to take a lot of different routes during the game. You're able to make a lot of different decisions depending on what the situation is, because you can give almost every character in your deck rush. That gives you a lot of different options, and between that and the Nami searcher, you're really going to find what you need in that certain situation, or hopefully if you don't have what you need, then you're kind of screwed, but hey, that happens sometimes in this game. I definitely won't guarantee you have a lot of success with this in a big tournament like a Treasure Cup, or even winning and going undefeated at locals, but I can guarantee you might have a good time with it. Probably. Maybe. I certainly have been enjoying my time with it. Before we get into the gameplay, we are going to do a deep deck profile, then we've got a giveaway for you. We've got a giveaway in just about every video on the channel, and then of course we'll take this deck to the sim, see how it does, and talk about it afterwards. For those that don't know, Sanji is a 5-life, 5,000 power mono red leader. He's got the ability of activate main once per turn. You may give up to one of your 8 cost or lower characters without an on play rush for the turn. This is absolutely crazy. It's as crazy as it sounds. No deck plays like PRB Sanji. Unfortunately though, always rushing does not necessarily mean you are automatically going to be able to pressure down your opponent and win the game. This deck can easily run out of steam. If your opponent knows how to play against it, they just continue to focus on the bodies on the board and not worry about swinging to your leader. Naturally, you'll just kind of starve because of that if you're not taking cards from your life. And then of course, if they've got big bodies, it's going to be hard for us to deal with them because we like to stay more so low to the ground and just continue applying pressure with smaller bodies than going really big with big bodies. This deck certainly does have some good matchups, especially against Blackbeard. I think this deck can do really well against Blackbeard just because we can apply so much pressure, and then with some of our character effects like Pell, we're able to KO some of their smaller bodies without actually swinging into them. Other decks like Yellow Eustass Kid, at least for me, have been really hard to deal with. If you've got the sauce for that matchup, definitely let me know in the comments down below. Starting off, we do have 4 of these Sanji from OP10, 2 cost, 3,000 power with 2k counter. At first, this doesn't sound like a crazy card, but in this deck, it does go absolutely crazy. Activate main once per turn. You may take the top card of your life, then give this character plus 2,000 power and 2 rested Dawn. And if you're thinking what I'm thinking, yes, you can play this down on your first turn if you're on the even curve and swing for 7,000. That is absolutely crazy. It's going to get removed relatively easy because it is just a 3,000 power character, but nonetheless, that pressure is crazy. And depending on the situation, a 2 cost 7,000 power rush is just absolutely broken. We're running 4 of the Nami searcher from OP10 as well. This is just your typical 1 cost 2,000 power searcher with 1k of counter. Looking at the top 5 cards of your life for a Straw Hat type character, we are running a ton of Straw Hat cards in this deck, so it is usually hitting, and we're going to be able to find something that we can use later on in the game depending on what we need in that situation. 3 of the Nico Robin 3 cost 4,000 power from OP10 as well. It does have 1k of counter, which is very nice, and then it has a great ability of Dawn ×1 when attacking. KO up to one of your opponent's characters with a power of 3,000 or less. This is an amazing way to get rid of chump blockers. On your 4 Dawn turn, you can play this down, give it rush, give it a Dawn, and then swing 5,000 while KOing a 3,000 power character. A great way to get rid of reusable searchers like Jewelry Bonnie or Lafitte. She also combines perfectly with some of the other cards in our deck, like this 4 cost Brook. 4 cost 5,000 power, a 1k counter as well. This has a very similar effect where Don times 1 when attacking, you get to give up to 2 of your opponent's characters minus 2,000 power for the turn. We also have 4 of the 5 cost 6,000 power Pell, which does the same thing as Nico Ramen, except it can hit a 4,000 power character instead of a 3,000. Combining this with the Brook, we're able to hit a 6,000 power character. This is one of the best cards in our deck. 4,000 is a decent threshold to hit. I think a lot, if not most, Sanji decks are running this card, and it makes perfect sense why. Back to Brook for a moment. We are only running 2, but I don't think it would be a terrible idea to bump this up to 3, just because it does have a lot of synergy with other cards, and at the end of the day, it is searchable and a counter, so it's got some utility there. Probably my favorite card in this deck is the 8 cost 9,000 power Monkey D. Luffy from OP10. It's got Banish. An 8 cost 9,000 power Rush Banish card is just absolutely broken. Depending on the matchup, your opponent's going to be screwed late game if they don't have a blocker to get out of that attack. Banish is a really underrated mechanic in this game, and I love getting this card out. The reason I keep it only at 2 is because we do prefer to play lower to the ground and play more characters than just maybe one big body a turn, but at the same time, if you can establish this, it can just be such a menace for your opponent to deal with. We're running 2 of the Shiraya blocker from OP06. 3 cost 4,000 power and 1k counter. Doesn't sound very special, but his ability is really strong. When attacking and when blocking, once per turn, you may copy the power level of your opponent's leader. This is especially good in the Black-Yellow Luffy matchup, of course. When they power up by using Gecko and the Little Brothers, you can copy that and then swing big, giving him rush with leader ability. Any card in this deck that does not have an on play can use the leader ability, which is so strong, making it really awkward for your opponent and putting them in situations they're definitely not used to. One of the MVPs of this deck for me is definitely the 6 cost 6,000 power Wapple, 1k counter too, which is nice, and then Don times 1 when attacking. This Don times 1 when attacking is so strong. Give one of your opponent's characters minus 2,000 for this turn, then give your character plus 2,000 until the start of your next turn. So on defense, he's going to be buffed to 8,000 as well. You can get him out on 6 Don. You can't use his ability on 6 Don, but you could use his ability on 7 Don and play him out. He's going to be an 8,000 power character that's really annoying for your opponent to deal with. Great way to clear your opponent's board and just put pressure on their life. I love this card at 4. We're running 3 of the 3 cost 3,000 power Sanji from OP10, 1k counter. This is some of the new support that I do think fits really well into this deck. During your turn, this card gets plus 3,000 power, so you're going to have a 6,000 power swing with rush on your 3 Don turn, which could be crazy. And then also what we really like about it is that on KO, you do get to draw a card. That card draw is so great because you're going to be able to replace it even if your opponent clears it relatively easily. Being able to pressure your opponent for a 6,000 power swing and then draw a card as well on the KO. That's a great deal in my opinion. We're running 4 of the Tony Chopper, 4 cost 4,000 power, 2k counter blocker from OP10. We don't run a lot of blockers in this deck simply because we're really focused on aggro, but this one is a 2k counter, it is searchable, and we could hypothetically give it rush if we need to. On your opponent's turn, he does get plus 2,000 power, making him a 6k blocker. That's not too bad to develop on your 4 Don turn, and he's a searchable 2k, so I really like him in this deck. I don't think having some emergency blockers is a bad idea, but he does get bounced relatively easily in this current meta. Next, we're running 2 of the new Shanks promos. 6 cost 7,000 power with 1k counter. It was released in the East a while ago, and now it's finally coming over here. When attacking, Don times 1, you may trash a character card from your hand. Give one of your opponent's characters minus 1,000 power for this turn, then you get to draw a card. Shanks is one of my favorite characters in the anime and manga, so I'm throwing him in here. There might be better choices, but he's a fun card to mess around with. Being able to use his ability, comboing it with other characters, I think there's potential there. Only running 1 of the 1,000 power Nami from Starter Deck 1. This is a little bit of spice, but at the same time is kind of useless as a one-of. I mean, it's just kind of fun to mess around with. During your turn, activate main, you're able to give one of your leaders or characters a Rest the Down card, which with our abilities is really strong. For example, being able to utilize Robin's ability on your 3 Don turn. However, this card is, at the end of the day, a 1-cost character. These are bounced so easily, whether you're playing Blue Dofi, Blue Boa, Rob Lucci, Blackbeard. They're going to be able to get rid of this card so easily, so I don't really find it worth running. I have 1 just because it's fun, but at the end of the day, if there's a card to take out, this is probably it. Next, we're running 2 of the Starter Deck 1 Roronoa Zoros, 3 cost 5,000 power, and then he's got the great ability of Don times 1. This character gains plus 1,000 power. This stays for your opponent's turn as well, so if you have a Don card on him, he's going to be 6,000 power on your opponent's turn, making him really annoying to get rid of. Now, I'm only running 2 of them. I think you can make the argument to run more. Running him at 3 isn't a bad idea. I don't know if you necessarily need 4 before, but I'm not going to question you if you do. 2 of the 2 cost 2000 power Jinbeis from starter deck 10. This is a little bit of spice. I don't think a lot of Sanji decks are running this. He is a 2k counter at the end of the day that is searchable, so he's going to have utility in that aspect, but he does also have a when attacking ability that really synergizes well with our other characters, this being Don times 1, give up to one of your opponent's characters minus 2000 power. Unfortunately, being at 2000 base power is going to make it difficult to really do much with this character. Sometimes it does feel like you're giving Don to him but not fully utilizing it because it's not going to be a meaningful swing most of the time. I think Otama is probably a better option just because you get that minus 2000 for only one Don, and it's the turn that she's played. You don't have to hope that the Jinbei sticks to the board. Next, we've got the new starter deck 21, 2 cost 3000 power Sanji. It's a 2k counter, which is great. Then he also gives one of your straw hat type characters with 6000 power or more unblockable, so that's amazing going for game. I didn't find myself using this card a ton, so maybe I don't necessarily need it. I think maybe one of would be fine. Continuing with the 2 ofs from starter deck 21, we do have the 5 cost 6000 power Monkey D. Luffy. This card does fit very nicely in the deck. It does already have rush, so you can't use it with your leader ability, but his when attacking ability does complement some of the other cards in our deck nicely, which is why I keep him in. When attacking, you get to take a rested Don and attach it to one of your leaders or characters. This is a great way to get a rested Don on some of your other characters that can really take advantage of it. Brook, Nico Robin, Pell, etc. Another card I've been enjoying that I definitely think I should consider bumping up is the 4 cost 5000 power Zoro from starter deck 21. A 1k counter on that is a very nice touch as well. He does have the ability that Don times 2, you can give him rush, but of course we don't need to do that because we do have leader ability. What is really special about him though is his on KO effect, which lets you play a 6000 power character from your hand to the field when he's KO'd. That is crazy. I believe in one of the games I cheat out a Wapple with him, and that Wapple is so annoying to deal with. Your opponent might not be able to deal with a 6 cost 6000 power body after they just swung into the Zoro, so you're getting great value there. I absolutely love this card, and so yeah, I should probably bump this up to 3 at least. 2 Radical Beams, the typical 1 cost 4000 power counter event. We're only running 2 because this deck really isn't trying to extend games. We're trying to go as fast as possible, and with that idea in mind, we're not necessarily thinking about countering out in the late game when this Radical Beam can get its full effect off, but having some in your deck can be very helpful when you need it, so we got 2 right now. Same thing with Bad Manners Kick Course, your typical 0 cost 3000 power event, being able to trash a card from hand, usually a counterless card, which we don't necessarily run a ton, but we do run some, so we're able to get value with them and get 3000 power on the defensive end, which is solid. And then last but not least, we have an event card that I absolutely love, Divine Departure, a new 1 cost event from OP10. It has not 1 but 2 different abilities. You get to choose which one you want to use. You can either use the first one, which is Activate Main, rest 5 Don, so in total you're going to rest 6 Don for this card. You get to pop a 8000 power character or less. This is an amazing way to get rid of some bigger bodies that this deck might not necessarily be able to deal with right away. This is great for a 7 cost Foxy. Spoiler for one of the other games, I use it on that. Then we also got the 8 cost Eustass Kid. If they don't have a 2 cost Rosinante or the 3 cost Tashigi, this is an amazing way to get rid of that as well. Then you can also use it as a counter instead. Just for 1 Don, you get plus 3000 power, basically a guard point. Who doesn't love that? I really like this card in this deck. Even though I have a ton of fun with this deck, I definitely see why it fails to kind of be relevant in the meta. Now for the giveaway, I do not have a custom Sanji to give away in this video, so I'll give away a different card that I think you'll probably like. We do have a custom red-green smoker to give away using art from the Treasure Cruise game. I am not the artist, I am not selling this. Editor, throw the art on screen, boom. All you have to do to enter this giveaway, it's very simple, is 1, leave a like, and 2, leave a comment. There will be a random drawing for 1 US-based commenter, and I'll ship it to you completely free. That's all you have to do, ladies and gentlemen, is 1, leave a like, and 2, leave a comment. And then if you're feeling so inclined, consider hitting that subscribe button down below. It helps the channel out a ton. It encourages me to continue making videos, and I'll love you forever. Maybe. I don't know. Editor, roll the gameplay. Our first game of the day is going to be against a black Gecko Moria from OP06. Not a leader you see a ton nowadays, but definitely a really strong one nonetheless. We are going to be going first. I really like to go first with this deck just because I want to apply pressure as soon as possible. This hand is pretty interesting. We've got a lot of cards that we like to see in this deck, especially early game. That 3 cost Zoro can be a menace. Also, that 5 cost Luffy that comes out in starter deck 21 is really strong. They're going to take the 5000 power swing from our leader and then 5000 now with our Zoro, and they will counter out of that with a 1k counter. Going to 4 Don here, we'll likely see them use leader ability. They're actually kind of going to shock me. They're going to use Ice Age on that Verona Zoro Zoro 3 cost, and now it's just a 0 cost, and now they're going to swing 6,000 with leader, cheating out the Absalom to get rid of the Zoro. I don't think that's a terrible play. I mean, I feel like Ice Sages are better used on bigger bodies, but at the same time, my deck doesn't run a lot of big bodies, and if they're worried about me applying pressure, then it's a good idea for them to get that Zoro off the board. Now 5 down for us to work with. We are going to continue to apply pressure. We're going to do a 5,000 swing with our leader. They only have 4 cards in their hand right now. They will take that, and now we'll swing 7,000 with our Monkey D. Luffy from starter deck 21. Using his ability, we're able to give him a rested Don, which is really strong. They're going to give us a 2k, 1k, which, hey, we are super thrilled about that. Keeping Gecko's hand size is going to be really good for us, limiting their plays. Of course, they can bring back cards from their trash relatively easily, but with very little cards in hand, if we're able to rush them down, they probably won't have the counter they need. Of course, we can give almost every card in our deck rush, so we're going to be applying crazy pressure. They're going to start off with 6,000 from their leader, not using leader ability. I don't think it makes sense to counter this. I think we should just take this, get another card into our hand. One thing about that, though, is I do allow myself to get hit with the Perona if they do play a Perona on this turn. Now 6,000 at us with Absalom. We're going to take that as well, be a little bit risky, see what we can get from our life. They are going to use the Finger Pistol to get rid of our Monkey D. Luffy. I was really hoping that stayed on board, because if it could have stayed on board, we'd be in such a good spot right here. This turn, I'm thinking of developing the Brook and hopefully keeping him on the board so we can combo him with Pell next turn. We're going to give him Rush using leader ability, and then use his ability to give minus 2,000 to Absalom and their Sindri. Now, there's definitely an argument here to be made that I should be swinging into their life and just putting a ton of pressure on them and not worry about their board. I am going to clear their board a little bit, though, just because I do want to kind of alleviate any pressure that comes to us. So we're getting rid of that Absalom, which is nice, and then I'm just checking out their trash, seeing what they could possibly do next turn. I am thinking about possibly developing this Jinbei too. The Jinbei can easily be removed by an Absalom, but my logic here is that they won't be able to remove both my Jinbei and my Brook, and keeping another body on the board would be really helpful. And so if I can just keep one of those on the board, I'd be in a really good spot for next turn. We're going to swing 5,000 with our leader, which they will take, which is huge. I'm glad I swung for 5,000 and not 7,000. We play down the Jinbei, and even if it dies, we still have Brook, and even if Brook dies, we still have Jinbei, so hopefully we can keep one of those on the board. I think we probably can, unless they just swing crazy into the Brook and then play Absalom off of leader ability. That is definitely an option, and we don't have a ton of counter in our hand, so we can't protect Brook that much. But hopefully we'll be able to keep one of those on board, possibly combo it with Pell next turn, KOing a body based off the power level. They're going to start by giving 1 Don to their leader and swing 6,000 into our Brook. They are going to use leader ability to get out the Perona, which caught me off guard. Perona's going to make us trash a card. This is a really rough spot for us just because we don't really want to trash any of our cards. I think Shanks is probably the best card to trash in this situation, but I decided to actually trash the Shiraya. I regret that in hindsight, and I regret letting that Brook die too. I really think I should have tried to keep him alive and then trash the Shanks. Shanks is just such a strong body though, and yeah, just a great rush attacker that will allow us to draw a card too. In hindsight though, I feel like I should have countered out of that attack. I should have trashed Shanks. We live and we learn though, so that's the great thing about reviewing our games, is that you get to see some of your mistakes and then look back on them. Then they're going to play down the Rob Lucci from OP10 that forces you to trash a card, and I'm going to get rid of my 2k Sanji. What the heck am I doing? That's a 3 cost, 6,000 power rush card. I just got rid of it. I think I'm a little bit too attached to that Shanks right now. While this turn would be a nice turn to play it, I think I might actually go with Pell to be able to clear one of their bodies off the board. I'm going to give a Don to our Jinbei and then swing just maybe 3,000 with him, not give him a ton of Don just because I want to save Don for our leader and potentially Radical Beam, and Pell will require a Don as well. So that's why I'm kind of doing the math here, and it's a little bit awkward. It feels really bad to swing just 3,000 at their leader and leaving my Jinbei vulnerable to get removed off the board this next turn, but it's worth it just so I can play down the Pell and get some value off of that. Now we're going to do 6,000 at their leader. They'll have to give us a 2k or 2 1ks, and if not, we get a life card, which we love. They're down to 1 life, which I know they're nervous about. Now we're going to give Pell Rush, swing 7,000 into their leader, pop the Rob Lucci. Popping the Rob Lucci is definitely the move there, and then they're going to take that next hit as well. I wonder if their hand is just bricked up. We are in an amazing spot right now. They're going to do a Gecko play and bring back the 2 cost blocker, and then the Absalom rested. The Absalom rested is able to pop our Jinbei, and then they'll probably try to clear this Pell. We did leave a Don up for Radical Beam, and it's only a plus 2000 counter, but we really want to keep this Pell alive. 2 Don for them to work with. They could also play another jump blocker. They're just going to go 7000 at the Pell, and that is perfectly fine for us. We can just use Radical Beam and keep it alive. Even if we didn't keep it alive, though, I think we have this in the bag because we do have another Pell in our hand that we could play down this upcoming turn. They don't have any other options, though. They're going to swing 5,000 with Perona, and that's fine with us. We get the Nami off of life. Nothing crazy there. And now it's definitely just going to be GG's. Throwing a Don on Pell, just swinging 7,000, and then we'll throw it all on Sanji. But this Pell hit might even go through, too. We'll see if they have the counter for it. They've got 6. They've got 7. Do they have 8? And they do not. GG's. That one was not terribly close. Gecko's always a scary matchup, though, if they can really just continue to trash cards from your hand with Negative Hollow, Rob Lucci, and Perona. Our next game up is going to be against a Foxy, and I think this is going to be a really interesting matchup. I think Foxy is one of the most slept-on leaders in the game. They're going to start off with the Tony Chopper for 2 Don, just a simple little blocker. We can do a 5,000 swing with our leader, which they will counter out of with a 1K, and then we can do a 6,000 power rush with Sanji from OP10. You know we love that combo. 6,000 at them, they will give us a 2K. I wonder if they should be taking these hits just because it's early on in the game and they're giving us a lot of counter. But I digress. We will pass it back to them. They're going to have 4 Don to work with. They're going to give 1 Don to their leader, swing 6,000 into the Sanji, and we are usually perfectly fine with letting this Sanji go, just because on KO, the Sanji does allow us to draw a card. All for the KO effect, we do draw our 8-cost Banish Luffy. That is one of my favorite cards in the deck. An 8-cost Banish Rush is just so strong, and this deck in particular we're playing against, we're really going to need to rush them down because they will be able to freeze our characters. So once we swing with them, we might not be able to swing again with them. We're going to start off with a 5,000 power swing from leader here. Then we'll likely go Pell, and then hopefully the Pell will stay alive, and then we can combo that with a Brook potentially on our next turn. They take the 5,000 power swing from our leader, now 6,000 at them with our Pell. They will block this with the Tony Chopper, which we are absolutely fine with. We are happy to see that Tony Chopper go. Now, they're going to be at 6 Don this turn. We could see I was going to say a bigger body, but they are just going to swing 8,000 at the Pell. They really want that Pell to go. I can save it if I want to. I'm thinking about that 2-cost Sanji, and maybe we get rid of Brook as well. We're actually going to go with the OP10 Sanji, I think. Maybe get rid of that. I don't think they're going to swing with the Pickles, and if they do, we do have the counter for it. But I decided to just let it go, not get too crazy, and counter a lot with what's in our hand. That's one of my biggest issues and flaws as a player, is sometimes I'm just too ambitious with all the counter I use, and I give up way too much counter early. So I'm trying to work on that, and I decided to hold off, which in the end I think is the right play. We are going to play down the 1-cost Nami Searcher, and we do find that 3-cost Nico Robin that will allow us to pop one of their lower characters. Right now that Pickles does prevent their Foxy Pirates characters from being KO'd by effects, and so I need to get rid of that Pickles first before I can get rid of the Itomi Mizu. They are going to counter out of our 5,000 power leader swing, and now we'll throw down our 3-cost Sanji, swing 6,000 at them. I'm definitely expecting them to take this, but they do counter for 2K, so we're fine to get that 2K out of their hand. We're establishing a board a little bit. They do have that 7-cost Foxy right now, which is going to be so strong, and we play a lot of bodies that are low to the ground, and being able to give them all minus 1,000 power with their 7-cost Foxy's ability is really annoying. Now they're going to be able to start spamming leader ability probably, and yep, that's exactly what they'll do. 5,000 at our leader. They're going to freeze our Sanji, character and leader. I'm thinking we take this because we've got a ton of life left and we could use some extra cards in our hand. The question is, do I establish on this turn the 8-cost Monkey D. Luffy with Banish, or do I go with the Divine Departure event to get rid of that Foxy? They're going to swing 6,000 out with Pickles, and I will toss that 2K counter Sanji. I think I would have been fine to take that though. I'm a little stumped for what exactly I should do here, but I think getting rid of that Pickles should be one of my biggest priorities. I'm going to play down the Jinbei and then use his ability, give him Rush with Sanji, and then minus the power of that Pickles to lower it to equal my Jinbei power. Just really trying to get that off the board. If he doesn't die by the Jinbei, he'll die from my Nico Robin. Then we can go with the Divine Departure and get rid of that Foxy. While I would like to establish that 8-cost Luffy and I would be able to rush with him, I think that getting rid of the Foxy and hoping he doesn't have another right after this is the right play here. Let me know if you disagree and you think I should have established that 8-cost Luffy right here. It definitely feels great to get that Foxy off the board though. With 3 cards in their hand, how likely is it that they actually have another? And unfortunately, they do have another right away. They probably will swing into my Jinbei and freeze my Sanjis again, which, again, unideal, but that does leave us in a good position for a Monkey D. Luffy banish straight to the dome, or maybe we go Brook, Nico, Robin combo. 7,000 into our Jinbei. We absolutely cannot protect this. We've got to let it go. Leaving one Don up. They won't use leader ability there, which is interesting. Is there any reason for them not to, or is that just a misplay? I don't know. Either way, we are just going to kind of take advantage of that. I think now is time for the 8-cost Banish Luffy to come out. We're going to swing into their life and hopefully banish a card. We'll give them one Don, and so we're only going to swing 9,000 into them because they do have that Foxy effect. We get them to trash a 9-cost Monkey D. Luffy secret rare, which is absolutely huge. Now 5,000 at them with our Sanji character, and then they will counter out of that. We won't swing with our Sanji leader or our Nico Robin. That is so they don't get to maximize their leader ability. They'll still probably use it this turn to freeze the Monkey D. Luffy, but at least we'll still have our leader swing next turn. 7,000 at our leader with their Foxy character. We will take that. We get a Brook, which could hypothetically be useful, but won't be crazy useful. Now 8,000 with their leader, using leader ability to freeze our presumably Monkey D. Luffy. If they don't freeze that, they're absolutely crazy. We do get the Wapple off of that, which Wapple is one of the best cards in our deck. Probably the best card, to be honest. Now, 10 Don for us to work with. I could pressure life a little bit here. I think I'm going to prioritize getting rid of one of the Foxies. The question is, how do I go about this exactly? I'm just going to go 9 down on our leader and swing 9,000 into the Foxy. That is because they only had one card in hand, so 9,000 was the most they could possibly counter. Now I've got 6 Don left to work with. I'm debating on how exactly to split up this Don. I'm going to go 5,000 here with our Sanji now. If they want to counter out of that, fine. Now they're down to 2 life cards. I'll give 1 Don to Nico Robin. Swing 4,000 into life just to clear that Itomi Mizu. And then we can establish this OP10 Sanji and just continue to rush them down. I think after this, it's just going to be GG's. I mean, unless they have some other crazy plan up their sleeve, I think we're in a really good position to just continue rushing them. They could potentially clear/freeze our board between Foxy, their leader swing. Maybe if they play 9-drop secret or super rare Kaido from starter deck 4, they're going to go with the 7-cost Foxy and then the 3-cost Pickles as well. I think at this point, though, that might not be enough to win them the game. 5,000 into our Sanji character, which is only at 3,000 power during our turn. They're going to freeze our Luffy and our leader. I might just counter out of this to keep it alive, even though I don't know how much it really matters. We'll give them the Sanji 2k and then a Brook 1k, and they turn the Foxy sideways, but they just concede because it is over. GG's. Now, onto our next one against an OP10 Red-Green Smoker. This one I am not confident in at all. This deck is just so strong. Between their 8-cost Eustass Kid, I think I'm really going to struggle to clear that card. Divine Departure is a good addition to this deck, in my opinion, to help get rid of that. But they do also run the Tashigi. They run Rosinantes, probably. They've got the new Smoker 5-drop. Like, this deck is just so strong. I'm not sure if we're going to be able to rush it down, but we'll see what we can do. We're on the odd curve. We're going to go first, and nothing we can do with 1 Don, so we'll just pass it to them. They play down the Monet for 2 Don. That Monet from OP10 is pretty strong. Now, I'm debating on exactly what I should do. I think just swing 6 here, and then maybe I should go with the 2-cost Sanji from OP01. That would allow us to swing for 7,000, and 7,000 on turn 2 is crazy. They're going to take the first swing of 6,000. Now 7,000 at them. They'll take that as well. Down to 2 life already is scary for them. They do have a ton of cards in their hand, and they do have a lot of good defensive options, but still, 2 life on turn 2 is not the best feeling I can imagine. With 4 Don to work with, they're going to start off with a 1-cost Virgo, finding the Tony Chopper blocker from OP10 that I have in my hand, and then a Rosinante as well. Using Monet's ability, they're going to give 2 Don to their leader, then swing 7,000 at our Sanji. Of course, we've got to let that go. We're not about to give them 6k worth of counter. Now, 5 Don for us to work with. The question is, how do we want to do this? I'm thinking maybe we go 1-cost Nami to do a search, and then maybe the 4-cost Zoro and rush with him as well. Off the Nami, I'm thinking we take the Nico Robin. That could be really convenient to get rid of one of their jump blockers. That 2k counter Sanji also wouldn't have been bad either. I'm going to swing 5,000 with our leader into their leader, just pressuring life. I think swinging into the Monet wouldn't have been a bad idea either. But my current mindset is maybe we just ignore the Monet and pressure life and, I don't know, try to rush them down. They take that, which really surprises me. They've got a ton of cards in hand, and I imagine they would have been able to counter out of that, but they decide to take it. Then I am debating between the Nico Robin and the Zoro still. I do decide to go with the Zoro just because we will be able to play a card off the Zoro when the Zoro dies. We're going to go 5,000 at their leader with Zoro now, and they do 2k out of that. 2k'ing there is really interesting. I wonder if they don't have a lot of 1ks or the 1k counters they do have. They do not want to spend on counter. For 5 down, they will play down the 5 cost Smoker. That card is so good, ladies and gentlemen. They'll be able to set not 1, not 2, but 3 Don active between the Smoker character and the Smoker leader. Now 7 Don or 2 Don on the Smoker leader, swing for 7,000 at our Zoro. We can cheat out another body, and I'm thinking we cheat out the Tony Chopper. That would protect our life a little bit, but also the Nico Robin. I don't think it really matters. I think technically we get the most bang for our buck if we play out the Tony Chopper because it is more Don-wise, but the Nico Robin's going to be really helpful on the offensive end to KO one of their smaller bodies. I'm looking at you, Rosinante. You are going to go bye-bye. With their remaining Don, they will play down the 3-cost Tashigi. That is a little bit annoying. Now the Rosinante will not be able to be removed by my Nico Robin's effect. I need to clear that Tashigi first, but unfortunately, the Tashigi does get plus 1,000 power because of their leader effect, so I'm a little bit of a fool there. I do misplay, and I try to remove the Rosinante, but they can just rest the Tashigi instead. I forgot that the Tashigi had that plus 1,000 power boost. I'm a fool, ladies and gentlemen. Now I've got to change my game plan a little bit. I'm going to swing 5,000, I think, into the Tashigi. 5,000 into 5,000, though, doesn't feel great. I imagine they're going to block or counter. They don't, though, which I'm perfectly happy with. I'd assume that they'd rather use the Rosinante blocker. Now we're going to be able to clear it with our Pel, which is great. We're going to get a 7,000 power swing into their life with our Pel and then pop the Rosinante, so they'll have to use a counter event or just take this. They take it, and I wonder if their hand is just pretty bad, not a lot of counter, or what the deal is, because I'm surprised they're taking some of these hits. Now they've got the 8-cost Eustass Kid. They're going to be able to set 3 Don back as active and set up this fortress behind the Eustass Kid. We do have that Divine Departure, though, which is really great. Hopefully they don't have the Tashigi or the Rosinante. They're going to rest the Eustass Kid, but they do not play any cards out with it, which is great for us. We are still kind of in the clear, not necessarily in the clear, but we're still in a great position to go for game this next turn as long as we use Divine Departure, which the plan is 9,000 into Pel, which is minus 2,000 because of the Monet. Unfortunately, I don't think it makes sense to save it just because they do still have that leader swing as well. I think we should just let the Pel go. Maybe I counter out of this, though. Could give them a 2k counter and then the 1k, and then I would have to hope that they don't give Don to their leader and swing at the Pel, so I'm going to let it go. We're going to be able to get rid of this Eustass Kid. I don't think we'll be able to go for game, but we'll see. 6,000 now into the Nico Robin. I will counter out of this. That might be a little bit questionable, but I regret nothing. Now, time to Divine Departure that Eustass Kid away. You could also make the argument... Actually, no, you can't. I was going to say maybe I should Divine Departure the Smoker too, but no, that was a foolish statement, Johnny. Now I'm going to throw 3 Don on our leader and just swing 8,000 at their leader. I imagine they have a counter event, and they have the Radical Beam. I could have also threw 1 Don on our Nico Robin, swung for 5,000, and then popped their Monet. I don't think that would have been a bad idea either. They are going to have another 8-cost Eustass Kid, which is definitely a bummer because this next turn I don't really have a great way to get rid of it. This actually could be really bad for us depending on what we draw and get from our life this turn. They are going to be able to put it down on that Eustass Kid. Are they going to be able to cheat anybody out? I do not think so. They will not. That's another great sign for us. I bet they wish they had a Rosinante. A Rosinante right here or a Tashigi might really change the course of this game. Banish swing with Smoker, we will take that, and we do have to send a Shanks to the trash. That does feel pretty bad. Now, 4 Don for them to work with. They'll swing 6,000 into our life. We are going to 2k counter out of that. Now we're definitely in a little bit of an awkward spot. They're going to use Monet's ability, give 2 Don to their Virgo. They're going to be able to swing 5,000 at us now. We are going to counter out of that as well. We're going to give them the Tony Chopper. And now... yeah, I'm actually in danger of potentially losing this turn, or this next turn if I can't clear this Eustass Kid. We're going to find the Wapple, which might be our best card to find in this situation. We're going to give him 3 Don just because we want to almost guarantee we can clear this Eustass Kid. 11,000 into 6,000. If they have the counter, I imagine they will keep it alive. If they do, we can swing 6,000 with our Sanji into it, but I doubt that would be enough either. 2 Don for them to work with. They are going to let the Eustass Kid go, and now I have the choice between swinging into their life or their board. I don't think it really matters either way. I don't think they're bluffing with that 2 Don. They probably have a counter event. I decide I'm just going to swing into the Virgo to get as many bodies off the board as possible. I am a little bit nervous that between their leader effect and other shenanigans, they'll actually be able to go for game this turn. I only have 1 card in hand, so I'm going to be easy to math out. 7,000 banish, I got to let that one go through. And now, hypothetically, they could win this next turn. If they do their math right, now they're going to go 5,000 at us, and we can 1k counter out of this, which is great. I'm taking a moment to think about it, though, even though I can obviously counter out of this, and I will. I'm just considering all my options. Do I want to still maybe fake like a radical beam and see what happens, or I don't know. They do get a little bit antsy, though, and they do concede. I didn't mean to waste their time. I swear, I was just thinking. They did have 2 blockers to play out, so the game wasn't over, even if I countered out of that attack. They could have fought to live another turn, even though with my Nico Robin I'd be able to clear the Rosinante blocker, and then I would have just been able to math them out and go for game, even though they had the Tony Chopper blocker. If they had a Hody Jones there, though, that would have been crazy, and I think I would have been screwed. On to the next one, we've got an OP10 Eustass Kid. This leader I think is going to be a problem for us just because they're really able to get out some big bodies, turn them into blockers, manipulate life, you know, yellow shenanigans. They're going to start off with a 1-cost Monkey D. Luffy Searcher and get the OP10 Eustass Kid, which is a really strong card. I believe it's an 8-drop that trashes the top of your opponent's life and then also allows them to cycle cards at the end of their turn. We're going to start off, I'm debating on how I should play this matchup just because I've never played it before. So I'm debating between a Sanji and Rush and kind of put pressure on them early, or go with the Nico or the Nami and Search. We're going to go with the Nami and Search, and we do find that 4-cost Tony Chopper blocker, which might be helpful at the end of the day. It is still a 2k counter though, so that's great for us. 3 Don for them to work with. They'll start off with a 6,000 power swing with their leader. I think we should just take this. I don't think there's any harm in it. And we get the 3-cost Roro Zoro from starter deck 1, which is a great card in our deck because we're able to give it a Don, and then that gives it an extra 1,000 power. 4 Don for us to work with. We're going to swing 5,000 first with our leader. They are going to take that, and now we can go with the 3-cost Zoro. We'll give it Rush. We'll give it a Don. Now we're swinging for 7,000. I wouldn't be surprised if they take this too, and they do. They have that Shirahoshi blocker, which is going to be very annoying to deal with. A lot of our cards like Pell or Nico Robin like to KO their smaller bodies, and while that is a decent target to go after, unfortunately we'll heal them a life. Now 5,000 at us with their leader. In hindsight, I think we wouldn't have been crazy to take that. Instead, I will give them the 4-cost starter deck 21 Zoro as 1k of counter. Now they're going to play the 5-cost 7,000 power Rouge and use leader ability to flip the top of their life and give it blocker. Now they've got the 7,000 power blocker that is standing in the way of my characters and their life. That 7,000 blocker is going to be so annoying. I'm thinking of swinging maybe 5,000 with leader first just to get it sideways. And then potentially swing at life for 7,000 with Zoro. I decide just to start off with the Zoro swing of 7,000. That Basil Hawkins does have a trigger. Draw 2, trash 1. They'll trash an 8-cost Eustass Kid. I bet they have another one though, because that card is so good. They wouldn't want to get rid of it if they didn't have another one. Now 5,000 with our leader, hoping that they block with the Rouge. They do not. They counter out of that, which is also fine. Just because we do have a way to put pressure on their life again with this card, Monkey D. Luffy from starter deck 21. 7,000, they will block and counter with the Rouge. They'll probably try to clear that this turn with the Rouge, and I do have a decent amount of counter in hand, so I will probably try to save it. Now they're going to be at 7 Don. We could see OP10 Law, that is 7 cost, 9,000 power. They're going to start off with a 7,000 power swing into our Zoro, and we are going to give them a 2k to keep that alive. 7 Don for them still to work with. They are going to have that Law card. They're going to be able to put a card at the top of their life and then use leader ability and turn that Law into a blocker if they want. The Law also gives their leader 1 Don, and now they're going to swing 6,000 into the Zoro, and we'll give them the 1k counter. Now here, I think it's just kind of over for me. Okay, I'm definitely being over dramatic. It's not completely over for me, but how the heck am I supposed to get around this Law blocker? They're able to put cards at the top of their life and then establish these giant blockers that if I want to swing over, I'm going to have to give my characters of Don, and if I'm doing that, I'm not establishing other bodies. So this is definitely not a great spot for us to be in. 5,000 now with our leader, hoping to get a free block, but they do not fall for it. I'm thinking we here just play down a Tony Chopper blocker, or maybe we establish a Pell just to have on the board. But yeah, they have another 7 cost Law in their hand. They're going to be able to play that next turn that into a blocker as well. Clear my board. Ladies and gentlemen, this is not a great spot for us to be in. I'm going to swing with the Pell 6,000, see if we can get a card out of hand or a free block. They will block that. And now we're going to swing 7,000 with our Luffy. Even though the 7,000 doesn't really feel good, they still have that Shirahoshi at the end of the day. That Shirahoshi is a great blocker to have, and it feels so bad for us. They're going to be able to use the Shirahoshi blocker, pass it back to them, 9 down for them to work with, and they are definitely in the driver's seat now. I feel like we're running out of gas a little bit, and this Eustass Kid deck only gets better as the game goes on. They're going to be able to swing with their Law right away into my Monkey D. Luffy, 9,000 into 6,000. I could hypothetically counter out of this, but I've only got 4 cards in my hand, and they're going to be able to remove it either way because they also have that big Rouge card. We're just going to let it go, I think, and there's no point of trying to keep it alive. 9 down for them to work with. We are definitely going to see another Trafalgar Law, or maybe we see an 8-cost Eustass Kid. Either way, they're going to be in a great spot. 7,000 into our Pell, and we are going to keep this alive. We'll give them a 2k counter. We just need to keep some bodies on board, even though they're going to have these big bodies to deal with our big bodies, our biggish bodies. Our big bodies are nowhere near as big as theirs. That 7-cost Law is so good, healing them a life and then giving it down to their leader. They're going to be able to swing 6,000 now into Pell again. We are going to counter with the Sanji or Tony Chopper that looks like Sanji. We're going to keep that other Sanji in our hand that potentially allows a Straw Hat character, or I think maybe my leader too, to swing unblockable, which could be hypothetically helpful in this game. But look at this board, ladies and gentlemen. There is no way for me to come back from this monstrosity of a board. I'm going to give 1 down to Pell and swing 7,000 into the Rouge, or at least I'm debating on whether or not I should swing into the Rouge. I just swing into life instead. They're going to have that trigger for Trafalgar Law, but they're not going to be able to use it just because we have too many life cards between both of us. Now, I don't really know what to do here. I can just swing really big with my leader. I can play down a blocker and try to delay the inevitable. I'm going to give 2 down to my leader and swing 7,000 at their life. I feel like there's no point in swinging into the Rouge, at least while they still had that big blocker up. I imagine they would use the free block with the Trafalgar Law. Now 9,000 with our Zoro. They will let that go through. They still have that Shirahoshi though. Yeah, it feels a little bit bad seeing them with 3 big swings between the 2 Trafalgar Laws and the Rouge. 7,000 into our Zoro with their Rouge they're going to start off with. I could hypothetically counter or block, but they're just going to clear it with the Zoros anyway. What's the point? What's the point of any of this, ladies and gentlemen? This game has gone so poorly that I'm in a nihilist arc. Of course, we'll let the Zoro go. RIP Zoro, you did fight well. Now 9,000 into the Pell. We'll let the Pell go as well. 5,000 into our life, we'll take that. We do get the Wapple, which is a great card, but I don't think it'll be enough. 9,000 now with their other Trafalgar Law, we take that. They've got the 10-cost Portcast D-Ace, ladies and gentlemen, and I am just cooked. They set one of their Laws as a blocker and as active, and yeah, we're going to play down the Wapple as like a last-ditch attempt. We're going to swing into the Rouge, but it does not matter at all. This is kind of just a last-ditch effort to try to win. They don't even have to use a blocker there. They can just 0-cost counter event out of it. We'll swing 7,000 now into their leader. They take the Basil Hawkins. They can use its trigger to draw 2, trash 1. They'll trash a Gadatsu, and yeah, I leave it down up for Divine Departure, but does anyone think I'm going to win this game? If you think I'm going to win this game, I'm sorry. You might just be smoking some crazy stuff. I need what you've got because there's no way I'm going to win this game. 7,000 will counter out of. 10,000 into the Wapple. It doesn't matter, really. We're going to use the Divine Departure, but I think I misclicked or it didn't work yet. Maybe the sim was bugged. But it was a loss anyway. We do end up running this back, but this video has been pretty long and we got clapped again. I thought maybe that I could take what I learned from that loss and do better, but unfortunately same thing happens. We start off really strong, but by the end they're able to set up big blockers, so we're not able to get past those. Maybe this is just a bad matchup for Sanji. Maybe I'm just not very good with the deck. Maybe I just need to learn the matchup a little bit better. But anyway, we started off this game with the Nami search, and that's how you know it was going to be a rough one. I'm not going to show you all of this game. You don't want to see me get beat again, unless maybe you don't like me and you do want to see me get beat again. GG's to this player, though. Ladies and gentlemen, those are the games I got for you today. What did you think about them? Unfortunately, this deck is not like the most amazing deck in the world. My list is definitely a little bit janky. There's probably people out there that can cook better with it, but I still have a lot of fun with it, and I think you may too if you like to try out a more aggressive deck. And yeah, just give it a shot. Let me know how you like it. I would definitely love some feedback in the comments below. Let me know what other leaders you want to see me play, and don't forget to like and comment if you want to win the custom smoker leader. That's all I got for you today. I hope you have an amazing day. This has been Johnny TCG, out. And don't forget to subscribe.